Facebook Live. This is David. I'm reaching out to you, the Cadillac Counselor. Just trying to reach out to you today, knowing that there's a lot of stuff going on in our community. I just noticed that they just canceled schools probably all the way till all the way until um, till the end of April. So we got some things going on. I know for me, I was been cleaning toilets, asking my kids um, to pick up stuff over and over again. This is going to be a funk month or so. So, with that being said, today I was going to talk to you guys uh, about criminogenics and kind of what criminogenics is about. I wanted to share with you guys kind of some of the concepts that criminogenic creates. At any point, if you want to shoot me a question about what I'm talking about at any time, we can definitely discuss your answer. Okay, so. The first thing about criminogenics is that you got to understand that it's not something that you only can use with people who commit crimes. It was created in that form because of the intensity of the behaviors of a person. Whenever I've always been into behaviors, I love behaviors. I believe that without addressing behaviors, you will never get to the true essence of changing a person. When I was doing my graduate, I did my thesis on looking at children who get written up the most in schools. I did a middle school, and in that, looking at those students, I noticed that by the end of my thesis, I realized that most of the students that had the highest amount of write-ups ended up having one of the better testing scores. So what that ultimately tells you is that behaviors might look on the outside as being something that someone is forcing themselves to do, or that it's a lack of controlling themselves, or just plain acting out. But most time behaviors always have a deeper reason, and that deeper reason usually is what keeps therapists and counselors wrapped up in their sessions and having long extended therapy, because they never really address the true problem. A lot of therapists think that going back and working through what they call static factors ultimately will help the client open their minds up and see different things, but it doesn't work that way. Whenever people have behavior problems, going back into the static factors, being their parents being divorced, someone going to jail, where they grew up. All of those factors are things that you will never be able to change. You can't go back and replace that. And to be honest, it normally takes way too long to go back and get the person to either accept where they came from or how to process that. So what criminogenics does is it takes all of the past stuff and it makes it almost irrelevant, because the main thing that you are going to be looking at when you are criminogenic informed is you're going to definitely look at the antisocial behaviors that are very unhealthy. A lot of times people have addictions to cell phone uses. Some people have addictions to cigarettes, biting nails. Whatever the behavior is, you could ultimately use criminogenics to work that behavior out. The reason why the philosophy of criminogenic, what makes it very appealing in treatment is because you're only looking at the here and right now. You're looking at the behaviors that are unhealthy, and that's what you stay on. You stick with one or two behaviors, and that's all that you address. And with that, most of those behaviors are going to be the behaviors that are causing the person the most problems. Whenever it comes to looking at, I know a lot of times parents, no matter how old the child is, a lot of times they come in and they ask questions like my child is being defiant, my child is being oppositional, what can I do, or how can I fix this problem? A lot of times, I talk to these parents and I tell them different things to do to combat these types of behaviors. But a lot of times, people don't want to do the tough things like the enabling. I The reason why enabling is a very unhealthy behavior as a parent, or for anyone that's pretending to be responsible for the person that has the behavior, is because you are almost enabling that behavior to continue. Whenever people come into treatment, especially with me, I try my best to open their minds up to self-efficacy. You want that person to create their own world. You want them to solve their own problems without advice or without judgment. A lot of the times, whenever you have those questions, uh, uh, whenever you have those questions about the things that you can do to help someone that's recovering from some type of behavior, the best thing that you can do is create a environment that will allow that person to create their own destiny. With that being said, that's whenever the criminogenic risk factors and the needs come into play. Once you start kind of working with someone, especially for therapists, it's good to have a biopsychosocial. A biopsychosocial will help you look at the mental health, will have you look at the some of the trauma, some of the work experience. It goes through a plethora of information. But the one thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't look at antisocial. It doesn't look at the beliefs, the thoughts, and the patterns that ultimately cause people problems. This is why I prescribe to the criminogenic needs, and because I'm looking at the things that ultimately no one else is looking at. I'm looking at what are some of the mindsets. I'm looking at the peer association, like people they hang out with, because those are not static, those are dynamic. I only work within the realm of dynamic. Anything that's dynamic is things that can be changed right now at this point. Relationships can be dynamic. Where they live at right now is dynamic. The people that they associate with is dynamic. The way that they process, the way they think is dynamic, because those are the things that you can therapeutically change. If you step into the realm of the static situations where there's a lot of stuff in the past that have complicated their life, if you step into that realm, most of the people that you deal with, they never really get a chance to work on their behaviors, because either they're already incarcerated, or they've been kicked out of school, or whatever the consequences of that behavior, depending on the severity of that behavior. The one thing that I will tell people is that whenever we focus on things that are irrelevant, it creates the atmosphere that this client will need to attach to us for much longer periods of time than they need to. Within therapy, we should definitely create the atmosphere for people to deal with their problems, own their own problems, Philosophy of mine is it's just like a three-leg race. I don't push and I don't pull, but I will step at the same time that you step, and if you decide to run, I will run with you. A lot of times in treatment, we're pulling people, we're tugging people in, and just like motivational interviewing, which I have some issues with that, but that's a whole nother story. I might have to do a whole thing on motivational interviewing, in my opinion on it, because the process is too long. Anything that has a long process, all it does is allow that behavior to continue to manifest itself until the point where it is going to harm them in some kind of way. So, like people who struggle with caffeine, people who struggle with smoking cigarettes, people who struggle with eating sugars or sweets. Criminogenics is can be used in that, because you have to address the patterns. You have to address what are your patterns. So if you're a coffee person and you decide that you want to stop drinking coffee, then you'd have to start looking at all of the behaviors that come into buying coffee. I mean, having a cup of coffee, you have to go buy the cup of coffee. Some of you, you have to drive to the store to buy it. So if you look at all of those actions, all of those behaviors that led up to drinking one cup of coffee, that's one of the things that can be addressed because it's dynamic. You just have to maybe find a different way to work. You might have to find some way of occupying your time, wake up a different regimen. But most people don't want to stop the behavior, so that's the reason why they don't accept it as being a problem. They just look at it as being part of their life. But one of the things that I believe is that every behavior can change. Every behavior has the ability to be mended in a different way or to be restructured into a positive. So that's kind of the thing about criminogenics that I wanted to kind of open up and talk to you guys about, because a lot of people think that it's all about working with criminals, but it is a perfect tool to work with criminals or people that are in probation, because whenever people come and see you, it's just a lot of the things that I do. I give a lot of homework. The reason why I give homework is because I want them to structure their time. And when people don't turn in their homework, there's consequences. With everything that we do, we have to always pair it with the consequence. And the thing about consequences it's not about consequences like kicking people out of treatment. It's about consequences on the way that you will perform your services with them. People that come into group, I try to make sure that they all have assignments that they can bring back. And plus, it keeps something on their mind that allows them to continue processing the group even after you leave the group. So when they're at home and they're sitting in their house, they're bored, then it gives them the ability to pick up something and start kind of working on it. So these are some of the things that I addressed as a clinical director at Brooks Behavioral Health Services. But more than that, I've worked with many different programs in the area and around Maryland in developing a criminogenic focused and informed program so that they will be able to address the needs of the client, especially in this realm of addiction. A lot of mental health programs don't address the addictive parts of the person, and majority of the people now, they come with everything. They come with mental health, they come with some form of addiction. So using the criminogenic focus and being informed and looking deeper, you tend to open up the person's mind to see some of the mindsets that they have that are ultimately causing them issues, like not being able to find a job or not being able to be themselves in public. These are all behaviors that can be addressed through criminogenics. So I wanted to open it up to see if there was someone that had a question for me. If you had a question, I would love to answer it. And Taylor, I do need to call you back. Um, we'll discuss that situation later. Anyone else have any questions? If not, we'll close it up for today. I just wanted to let you guys know that criminogenics is a definite form of therapy. It's an approach, and whenever you approach treatment like that, hold on, I got one question. What kind of homework assignments do you find most effective? Um, to be honest, I don't give busy work. So most of the work that I give people or have been tested and approved, I do not work outside of the realm of um, of well written material. I like it to have focused on behaviors, something that is focused on coping skills, like for instance anger management. If I deal with someone that has anger management, I'm going to give them homework that's looking at just that type of behavior. I have homework for people that have sexual addictions, and I have a book that's pertains just to that person. So when I do relapse prevention, I look at every behavior that a person has, and we address every one of those. So if anger is a problem, if sex addiction is a problem, within the realm of masturbation or just pornography, I have a book for that. So I have several different curriculums that I use to address each person's problem. So I try to keep all of my treatment plans very focused and criminogenic led, so that they will be able to address that behavior and mindset in every single assignment that I give them. So let's say, for instance, like people that come to my groups, they know that they have to complete a curriculum. Every group is based on a curriculum except for my relapse prevention and my spirituality group. Other than that, every other group has a definite beginning and an ending, but it can definitely be repeated because each time it's done a little bit differently. So I hope that answered your question, Sarah, about homework assignments. Make sure that they're short, they're simple, and that they can do within about 10 to 15 minutes. You don't want them to do homework that lasts for more than an hour or 30, 40 minutes, because their attention span is usually not enough. So if they believe that they are not going to finish it or get a chance to get to it, then they won't do it at all. But if they realize that they can do an assignment in 10 to 15 minutes, they'll be more willing to do the assignment, which then increases their knowledge base. So I hope that answered your question on giving clients homework every session. Any other question? I hope that answered it. Is there any other questions out there? You're welcome. All right, so that's it for today. Very good to see you guys out there. Hope you guys are staying safe. I know a lot of stuff is going on in our society, but we are the salt of the world, especially as therapists. We are to give life back to our clients, and for clients who that are struggling, or people that are hearing my voice that have children that are struggling with behaviors or addictions or just being defiant, reach out to me, and I can definitely give you some tips on how to handle some of those issues in your household. So I hope that that's working for you. And have a good day, man, and stay out of trouble. Good to see you guys. All right, have a good day.